Welcome back once again to our short episode on a Friday. This is going to be going out on YouTube as well. And the topic today is what party combo could potentially be increasing your risk for cancer. This actually comes from some recent articles that were published, so this may or may not be familiar to you. But as many of you may know, the incidence of cancer is increasing in our country. And there are some things people are doing on a routine basis that greatly increase the risk of cancer. And some other things on top of the party combo, which we'll talk about in a second, that by and of itself is associated with a significant increased risk for cancer. And I'll be giving you exact statistics. And the question to follow up is so what? So how does this change your life? And we'll talk about that towards the end. So first thing I want to talk about is actually, it was an interesting German study looking at people who both smoked and drank alcohol. And no strange, it shouldn't surprise people that people who drank just one drink of alcohol a day had about a 39% increased risk for early onset colon cancer. So that's not new news. We, for a while we were saying, drinking red wine was healthy for women, a glass a day would lower your risk for heart disease. And we all know that's not the case. That was probably more marketing than anything else. Even one glass of healthy red wine, quote unquote, can actually increase a female's risk for breast cancer. So the basic gist is that there's really not a healthy, quote unquote, amount of alcohol consumption. Not to say it's not enjoyable, not to say that in cultures that drink it, like in Italy, blue zones, not saying those things, but here in America, in Germany, with our typical lifestyles, any amount of alcohol is not great, but just a daily could increase your risk for early onset colon cancer, 39%. That's a concern because colon cancer is on the rise. We've seen an expected rise about 90% in the 20 to 34 age group. That's between 2010 and 2025, and it's going up. These numbers are expected to continue to go up. So again, smoking and alcohol is a bad combination. If you do, not ideal. And another statistic that was interesting from the study is that teen rates for cancer are surging over 500% since 2000. So from 2000 to today, so that's 25 years, you're seeing a 500% increase in teenage cancer. Rare, but a 500%, a five-time, that's easier to say, a five-time increased risk in teen cancer, though rare, is really bad. Alcohol is one of the mechanisms that alcohol turns into acetaldehyde, which actually damages DNA. One of the antidotes for alcohol is actually NAC and acetylcysteine, because it actually improves your liver's capacity for detoxifying. And that's also how, if you already have a toxic load, if you already have a poor diet, that makes these things that increase your risk for cancer because of their effect on your liver's ability to detoxify acetaldehyde. It makes your risk go up even more. But the interesting thing is what else is being associated with an increased risk in cancer? And the answer is processed foods, especially ultra-processed foods. There's other research coming out showing that by itself. And, put this in perspective, I was actually in medical school before genetically modified foods came out, and as well, some of the newer food additives. And so I didn't have this from birth. The newer generation is literally coming out of the womb and being exposed to this in formula or in snacks and things like that. So it just makes sense that those that are exposed to processed foods, you'd expect to see earlier cancers and more aggressive. And processed foods alone, diet and lifestyle alone is associated with about 70% of cancers. You can prevent about 70% of cancers with diet and lifestyle alone. So all of a sudden, not smoking, not drinking, and not eating processed foods can be a massive game changer for risk of cancer. So, why these party things? Because, what do you do when you go out to parties? You eat your processed foods, your chips, your soda, your pop, which has a lot of stuff in it. You might have some alcohol, you might smoke. These are just typical things that just removing them can have a significant impact on your health. The question becomes then, so what? Will stopping this stuff now lower your risk? And the answer is yes. It just depends on where you're at in your lifespan. What we know from smoking literature is that if you quit smoking, within 10 years, your risk for lung cancer goes back to, doesn't quite match, but goes close to your age-matched normal. So that means if you're, say, 50 and you quit smoking, when you're 60, your risk for lung cancer is about the same, not quite, but about the same as a 60-year-old who didn't smoke. So the point is, making these changes now can have a profound impact on your risk for cancer. If there's a topic you'd like to hear about, something like this you'd like to know more about, certain foods you're curious about, please ask here. If you have questions about the information I've stated, drop your questions here. The purpose of these little mini episodes is to give people a little deep dive into something that actually might, not only are they interested in, but it can have a profound impact on their health. So otherwise, we'll take care and we'll talk to you soon in our next little mini deep dive. Take care.